and welcome to Ask the Chiropractor. I'm Dr. Corey B. Rodnick here in Midland, Michigan, and it's great to have you here with Ask the Chiropractor. I'm here with Dr. Toni Rodnick.
Good morning. It's always an honor and a pleasure to be here.
Yes, indeed, from Midland, Michigan, and from the great town of Clare, Dr. Tamara Slusher.
Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing today?
Good.
Great, great, great. So our topics today, we're going to talk about some shoveling of snow and winter sports, things like that. And we're also going to talk about the Super Bowl, which just happened, and how chiropractic is involved in that, as well as I wanted to talk about measles, a hot topic now. It seems to be getting everybody in a frenzy. I shall get rid of the fear of this thing that they're creating with just some simple facts. And then we were going to talk about, maybe, if we get to it, neural integrity, which I think is the most important thing. But anyway, so let's talk a little bit then about the snow. It snowed here in Midland, Michigan, and Clare, and all over the state, many inches, piled high. So what can we be doing to better protect our bodies in this particular situation?
Well, some of the things that the American Chiropractic Association that talks about is the importance in having the right kind of shovel. There's different shovels out there, and they have a bent shaft on the shovel to help you protect your back, especially when you're lifting. But some of the important things are not lifting too heavy of the snow. Take, more time to do it rather than try to push it all the way to the end before you lift it up and it's too heavy to try to lift up. And that's a good way to strain your back and to slip a disc really easy. But some of the other things that are really important is making sure to know when the snow plows are going to come by and when the snowfall is going to happen, and do it in periods of time rather than wait till it's all done and then try to lift this heavy snow.
If you're going to lift the snow, you want to not use your back. You want to use more of your legs and your arms.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also you want to dress probably very warm, so you don't have cold muscles out there.
And you want to warm up the muscles.
And stretch your muscles before you go do this.
And then how about fatigue?
Yeah.
Once you're fatigued and you still got a half a driveway to do, now what do?
You take a rest.
Take a break.
Yeah,
Yay.
Take a break. Drink some water, replenish and rehydrate your system, and then go back out there and do some more. It's okay to leave a little bit and go back and do more later. You don't have to do it all at one time so it looks the same. It's not about looks, that's for sure.
I know sometimes they just want to finish everything.
Yeah. There's a lot of stubborn people out there that want to do that.
And then they end up going to the chiropractor.
And then they come and see us the next day because they can't even stand upright. They're crippled over in pain.
Yeah, it's awful.
And antalgic lean, it's a problem.
And if you have a back support, maybe a good time to put it on, right?
Absolutely.
Especially like if your back muscles are getting tired. See, what holds the spine in place is muscles, ligaments, and tendons. And once you've worn out your muscles, the only thing left are the tendons. The next thing to go out is your tendons. And then the ligaments are what's left holding it together. And so once you tear all that, you're looking at a 4 to 6 week period of time before you can get back to shoveling again. So let's prevent. We need to prevent those injuries before they happen, because once they happen, it's a little too late. And I love that back support. I have these in the office. We have these little back supports. They're not expensive, like $45 or something. And I tell everyone to wear that during those moments. I know I do.
Absolutely.
I wear one as well.
Anytime that you're going to have to do any kind of lifting and you're doing anything extraneous with the low back, you need to be wearing it. You need to protect those muscles.
Now, what about other sports activities that we may be getting involved in? Maybe like sledding.
Yeah, I sledded a couple
that.
Weeks ago with my kids. So yeah, there's a lot of places where you can go sledding, and there's a lot of times when we don't think about it and we just try to go and have fun, and then afterwards, the aftermath of it, just like snow shoveling, you do your back muscles in. You should stretch before you sled. You should definitely, make sure that you're sitting with the proper posture when you're going to go down the sled, and the way that you carry the sled back up a hill, or the way that you're walking and how your posture is going to affect how things are going to happen with your back. So, you want to make sure that those back muscles are developed nice and that you've stretched beforehand, and make sure you stay hydrated That's one of the biggest things. So, carry Kleenex with you and stuff too. So, I mean, it's cold out there. I've seen the people crash in snow tubes and sleds before. So,
I
you
would
gotta
think
protect
ice
yourself.
would be a good idea if you do injure yourself a little bit,
Absolutely.
or if you've had problems in the past, to ice. I don't think it's hard to get ice out there on the old sled hill.
No.
So it wouldn't hurt to ice a little bit.
Just
maybe
lay down in the snow.
That's right. There you go.
Why
or
not?
a Ziploc bag.
Yeah.
Just bring a Ziploc bag with you.
And then take
Poof,
some back
it's-
with you. That's right. You
There
could
you
be doing it
go.
in the car on the way home. Exactly.
I know there's snowmobiling and there's all kinds of crazy things out there. The four-wheeling. I know I used to love that, and I backed off of it temporarily as I've been healing lately. And I think I'm ready again, though. I'm going to go sledding. I'm going to go do all that stuff skiing this year. So I'm excited. And people think that's crazy.
It's fun.
Seeing
It's
I was
fun.
like completely disabled
Hard
a
to
few
say
years
no
ago.
to if you've grown up in Michigan. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love all those sports. Also, when you're lifting like a snowman, roll it. Keep your elbows in. Don't reach out and pick these snowballs up. It kills me when they come in and say, "Well, I was building a snowman." Like what happened? It's like unnecessary pain that didn't need to be there, and also, how that affects the other parts, like the low back nerves. Don't just go to the low back and cause the low back pain. It can run down any of the muscles, of course. It can hurt your ankle, your knee, your calves, your thighs. It all is affected by all of that. So, and a lot of people don't understand that and how they're interrelated to each other.
Also, the internal organs are innervated by the nerves from the low back. The kidney, bladder, sex organs, lower intestines.
Sex organs. So a lot of people think you can't have sex because, my back's all screwed up. And they don't realize that it's because of having those nerves impinged upon. And
I was thinking about the function of being able to have children, being able to have the
Reproductive
proper hormones.
that's probably way more
Yeah.
important.
When I said sex organs, I was talking about,
I was thinking of something else.
That's good.
But, I mean, it's related, though.
Yeah, it definitely.
And I remember years ago, the stat on chronic low back aches, there was studies done, the government paid for them, that 50% of chronic low back aches are impotent. 50% of chronic low back aches in men are impotent. Whoa, significant.
It is.
So, I mean, does it affect it? We absolutely know it does. About half the time. So, woof, that's a big stat. And so take care of your spines, warm up, protect it. And we were talking earlier about the balance of the front end and the back end. So the idea is, on weightlifting, a lot of people think that weightlifting, we wear a weightlifting belt, and its job is to protect the back. But actually what it is for is to apply more pressure to the stomach area to balance out the pressure on the discs. So that's what it's doing. It's giving you more stomach muscles, and is what it's really for. And that's what takes a lot of the pain away, is the pressure on your stomach, on these back supports and these workout belts. And I would put one on. Again, I've already said it. I'll say it again. Put one on before you go shoveling snow. And in these different activities, some people say, well, I can't breathe as good, or that's not my problem. But it is the problem, and they just don't realize that it's all interconnected. Anything else on snow and stuff like that, winter stuff?
The biggest thing is just protecting the muscles and staying hydrated. Those are the biggest things.
Also, yeah, go ahead.
Know your limitations and start out slow. Like if you haven't skied in years, don't start on the Black Diamond. Start slow and easy. Build up to it.
I always start at the bunny hill. Every time I ski, I start at the bunny hill. When I was Black Diamond, double Black Diamonds, I still went to the bunny hill first and worked my way up. And if you're going out to Utah, or you're going out to Colorado, or you're going out to these other really huge mountains, their bunny hill is as big as our Black Diamonds. So you got to realize, you're starting at a different level there, and just kind of go slow and easy and work your way up. And if you're pregnant and you're skiing, also that throws things off. If you've gained 20 pounds or lost 20 pounds, significant. So you got to get your balance back. That changes everything as well.
And adjust the boots, the tension on the boots and the skis also.
Have to be done as well. And while we're talking about winter, make sure when you're doing your car and getting the snow off that you dust off your back lights on the car. Because a lot of people don't do that. They go to hit their brakes. People behind them don't see it through the snow, and they're crashing into each other. The amount of car accidents is like always increased with the first snow, the second snow, especially if there's a span in between. We don't have snow for 2-3 weeks. Then I get another, it's like a flock of car accident people. And again, chiropractic is great with that, obviously, but let's try to prevent those more. Because they're damaging to the spine, to the low back, to the neck. Very rough indeed. So our next topic, we wanted to talk about the Super Bowl. And I remember back, the 49ers had this guy, Joe Montana. And Joe Montana had some hip problems and back problems, and he used to discuss they have their secret weapon, so we're going to win today. And what they were referring to is the chiropractor they had in the back. And that's how they were just unbelievable that year, just winning and winning and winning because they had a chiropractor snuck in the back of the back in the locker room. And yeah, go ahead.
Now all 34 of the NFL teams have a chiropractor on their medical staff.
To even it out.
Yeah, to even out the playing.
Because it was unfair advantage having one had a chiropractor and one didn't.
And the players want to get adjusted so they can perform at a peak performance, not just for injuries, not just for pain and problems. They realize they play better when their body is aligned.
One of the teams referred to the chiropractor as they have their magic. Anyway, so in the Super Bowl, chiropractic is very much alive and rocking in there. It's part of their medical teams now, and it's. I know the Detroit Lions chiropractor, great guy. I love him to pieces, known him forever, and I'm proud of him for doing it. It's a lot of work. I declined it. At the time, I had 5 kids.
We still have 5 kids, even though they're grown.
I still have 5 kids, and it was like you have to be there. So I was afraid. At that time, I was working by myself, and I didn't want to be away from my kids that much. Although I could have taken them with, they said. Taken them with. That's 5 plane tickets extra. Anyway, with the wife, 6 plane tickets every other weekend. Anyway, but I think it's a great, great thing. I love dealing with the sports people. We have the Arnold Classic coming up, and we've been the chiropractors for that for at least 5 years, 6 years, something like that. We're the chiropractors for the Arnold Classic, adjusting all the athletes, and massively incredible event. I like that. So I don't know, you work with sport. You guys both work with sports people. Funny thing is seeing little Toni here adjusting some 340-pound guy. They sent down the weightlifters last year, and she didn't even know she was doing all these people. And they're huge, just big, meaty people, very meaty. Like when they flex their arm, it's bigger than my waist. You got to say, oh my God, you know, just very impressive. And she's in there just working them and lining them all up. It's very important for balance because they have to look balanced. So if you're pinching a nerve in there at all, or you have pressure on one side's going to be flexing different than the other side. You know, we know that from our grip tester. We have a grip tester for like all these auto accidents where they whiplash their neck. A lot of times the one grip will be 20 pounds stronger than the other one. And pretty significant stuff.
Yeah, that's because the area of the neck that gets whiplash, C5, C6, goes down into the arms. So it really affects not just the pain and sensations, but function too, motor function.
Now, the neck, anything more on that?
Well, I always get adjusted before I run my races. So, I mean, it just peaks performance. It increases endurance and agility. So it's all good stuff.
Amen. Great stuff. So One of the topics I haven't talked about in probably 15 years, I'm going to talk about mumps today.
Measles.
Measles. And MMR. Anyway, measles, because I've had a lot of phone calls lately about the measles vaccine, because of you guys probably know more about what happened as far as the outbreak of in Disney. You were talking earlier. Maybe one of you can tell us about it. Somebody got measles. No?
They're attributing some of this outbreak this year to an incident where somebody at Disneyland had it, and so it's spreading to different states from people that have gotten it from Disneyland.
And wasn't the Disneyland was just a reaction?
They never immunologically tested whether the strain of measles of the people from Disneyland was caused by the wild virus or vaccine virus.
Okay.
So they don't know. There was an incident in Baltimore where a baby got measles, and they did test it. They were worried about measles being spread, wild measles throughout the state, and now they say that it was from the vaccine strain of measles, and they're all excited because they're not going to have wild measles spreading throughout the state. But as it shows, just because you get the vaccine doesn't mean you're not going to get the disease. And a lot of times with live virus vaccines, you can spread, like from a week to a month, you can spread live virus. You shed the virus and contaminate or infect other people with it.
So the vaccine we're talking about is the MMR, which is it's mumps, measles, and rubella.
Yeah.
Now, and again, it's now become a frenzy. I've had at least 5 phone calls this week on this, and so that's why I'm bringing it up. So let's just talk about it. So there's measles, and then what they're saying is the vaccinated measles is what? The German measles?
No, it's a different strain of the measles virus from the wild and the vaccine.
Okay, they're not calling it the German measles, is the other
German
one?
measles is totally different. The MMR is actually a trivalent. It immunizes against 3 different diseases: measles, mumps, and rubella, which is German measles.
Rubella is the German measles. Mm-hmm. Thank you. So what happens when you get this vaccine, one thing, after 7 to 28 days, the vaccinated child is probably going to have the German measles, the rubella, leaking from its schnozola, or nose. Okay? So like anybody pregnant should probably stay somewhat clear of a newly vaccinated child in that 7 to 28 days if they're having the runny nose. Just some thought that nobody's mentioned yet. So here you go. So in the last, let's look at, this is from the Center of Disease Control, and you can look these up, and these are not like a chiropractic stat. These are from the Center of Disease Control. So there were 900 plus measles outbreaks from 2001 to 2011. 900. And out of those, there were 0 deaths caused from the 900 plus outbreaks of measles. However, from the vaccine itself during that same time period, and there were 4 different types of measles vaccine during that time period. So I don't know which ones were worse or which ones were better, but you can look these stuff up just on your cell phones if you have a smartphone or a computer, or you call the CDC. 108 children died just from the vaccines.
And that's from the Vaccine Adverse Effect Reporting System, which is another government agency.
Which, again, that number is probably a lot higher. And the reason I say that is because most doctor offices would not have put together that it was caused from the vaccine. You follow me?
So it doesn't get reported to this agency.
So it wasn't reported properly. Mm-hmm. But the ones that were reported were the 108. Those were definite deaths from the measles vaccine. And then having measles, 0 deaths. So everyone's afraid of getting measles. they should be afraid of the
Vaccine.
a little bit. So just something to be concerned about. And again, I'm not trying to tell you to get it or not get it. Just be informed consent. It's just getting to the main topic of why I'm talking about it, actually. But so far last year, there were 644 cases of measles. We don't know if it was we know how many were vaccinated and not vaccinated, and I still question their term of vaccinated, because see, you could be vaccinated and you do not get the immunity, but supposedly 1/3 of the children in, I don't have my year right on this, but because it wasn't last year's, was that last year's? 1/3 were vaccinated, were vaccinated. A little over 1/3 were actually vaccinated who caught the measles, which tends to make me wonder, so what were they vaccinated for? We don't know that either. In other words, you get the vaccine, you don't get the immunity against the measles, what'd you call it? The
Antibodies?
you don't get the antibodies, but it's those antibodies that you're getting is not for the actual measles that's going around. It's for the other measles, correct? You called it.
Different strains.
Yeah,
wild strain measles.
wild.
Or
Thank you.
vaccine strains.
Wild.
Strains.
You're not getting for the wild one. You're only getting for the other one, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So even getting this vaccine, you're not getting immunized against the wild measles. It's a different strain of the measles that's out right now. So the vaccine doesn't even give you anything against that. So I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I know the theory of vaccines to me is amazing. I would love to take a shot and be immune to everything. But the practicality and the reality of what is actually happening there is incorrect. And it's based on bias, lies, and all kinds of weird things. Lies, I'm saying lies because they're claiming that they're getting rid of measles by giving the measles shot. I think they're keeping it alive, personally.
If you look at the graph, measles was declining drastically before the introduction of the shot.
It was like the last 10%, 5% of the thing
most of the other diseases were declining before the immunizations.
And it's years after when they started the vaccine. It's like so silly. And that's what they're claiming is what cures it. But I don't think it's doing that. We'll find out if I'm wrong one day.
Diseases come and go. They rise and decline on their own.
And they're keeping it alive.
There was no vaccine for bubonic plague, and that's gone.
So anyway, the part that I'm bringing up all this for is because they've changed how you go to school. They changed the philosophical form to go to school.
In Michigan.
In
Michigan. Mm-hmm.
So do you know more about that?
Because I have not immunized my children, I've been reading up on this and trying to figure out, what the next best course of action is. Basically, in the past, as far as school systems go, as far as the daycare system goes, and licensed facilities across the state, you could just fill out an immunization waiver and just say why you chose not to vaccinate your children. And it did not need to be notarized. It did not need to be signed off on by anyone. You're the parent. You make the decision for the health of your children, and you would turn it into such said facility. Now they are involving the health department in stating that you basically have to sign off that you're not being a good parent and have made the choice to not vaccinate your children, and it must be notarized and then taken into a facility.
And you have to go to a class, too.
And you also have to go to a class.
See, the idea that you're a bad parent is the opposite for me, because I was in the same boat. Yeah. I think I was the good parent. All my kids are healthy. Mm-hmm. And anyway.
And we did it out of knowledge. We tried to research it and find facts and information.
God almighty, did we research it. I mean, hundreds of books.
I mean, it was only less than 6 years ago they had the H1N1 vaccine, and they brought it to the school system right in Clare County, and all the children in the school system were made to be vaccinated. And I chose not to vaccinate my child, of course. And so my child was asked to leave the facility and was told
Probably
she
a good
needed
idea.
to be, that she needed
She
to
might
remain
catch
at
something
home.
weird from these
And
others.
they made her remain at home for 10 solid days.
Okay.
And then they did a second strain of the vaccine, and she had to remain at home for the second one. And of her not being vaccinated, of her classmates in a class of 24, 12 of them contracted the H1N1 virus. And of those 12, 2 of them were hospitalized. So that had the vaccine. So it just goes to show you, if you choose, you become educated about this and make the decision yourself on what you choose to do. But I kept my child home with me, kept her nice and healthy, of course adjusted her, kept her immunity up the way I needed to naturally, and chose not to immunize her. And so there's no reason for it. That was my choice. So I don't like the fact that the state here is making us go through all this to say, well, yeah, you can have the choice, but you must do these things first. It seems excessive.
And what most people don't know is, they're trying to say it's safe, but it isn't. And if it was, that'd be a whole different, we wouldn't even be talking right now.
Right.
If it was safe. And the thing is, it's not safe taking the vaccines. And the idea is, how unsafe is it compared to having the disease? And when you look at the disease, after 10 years, there's no one dying. And the only one dying is people getting the vaccines. Mm-hmm. On this particular item, I'm not talking all vaccines here either, that they, need to get their vaccines back in order and make it more safe, number one. That's the first and foremost thing. And the ideas that they're using, it's like, it's just, to me, it's an atrocity. And most people are not aware of it. And I guess
a lot of people don't even know that they have a choice. Their doctor says you need it, and they need it.
I have that a lot with young mothers that come into the office. They've just had babies. They're automatically told, they'll come in and they'll say, well, yeah, I just got my child's shots today. The child's feverish and looking quite pale and stuff. And I said, well, why did you do it? Did you check on, what your rights are as the parent? And they said, no, the doctor said I needed to do it. So that's what they did.
I guess there's, for injured and dead children.
There's, in 1986, a lot of the vaccine manufacturers wanted to stop producing vaccines because of the liability. And then the government stepped in